Skoo, skoo. Alright, cool. It's your boy Carmelo, Daily Crypto NFT Generation, doing the research to make your life easier. Alright, so we got a new one today. Well, they're kind of new. I mean, they're not out yet. It's not it's still yet to mint in about 8 days or so. At the time of this recording, depending on when you're listening to this, but it's imaginary ones, and pretty much everyone knows about it now. It's one of the most hyped projects behind Invisible Friends, potentially even more than Invisible Friends this year. So it's one of the most hyped this year. So it's probably one that you know about, but I think it's always good to do your research regardless of how hyped it is, just to see what you think and make sure it's worth the investment, whether that's short-term hold, long-term hold, whatever there may be. Getting into it, I like to start off with the art. If you don't like the art, someone else won't like the art. I've said this before, and then there's probably not any real value in it if the art is absolutely pants. So yeah. Anyway, looking at this, the art, I think pretty vibrant, pretty cool, really colourful. Not it's not like a static JPEG like some other projects. It's like a constant loop of the characters walking, which is pretty cool. It's not boring like some others. The characters, the facial expressions on the characters, they're not actually on the characters. They're kind of suspended in front of the characters themselves, which gives a bit of a difference to other projects as well. So yeah, overall, pretty cool. I like it. Alright, so the not so invisible elephant in the room is the similarity between Imaginary Ones and Invisible Friends. Now it's absolutely incredible how similar they are. So I mean, for example, the constant walking loop I mentioned just now is something that Invisible Friends also has. The suspended facial expressions it's not exactly the same in Invisible Friends, but they've got like suspended headgear. So whether it be glasses or like a headband or a hat or something like that in Invisible Friends, that is suspended without an actual face. So there's a lot of similarities there. Even the name, to be fair, Imaginary Ones, Invisible Friends, it's quite similar. Invisible, imaginary, they're pretty similar there. So there's a lot of synergy between the two projects, made by two completely different camps, but there's a lot of synergy there. I mean, is it a bad thing? Don't know if it is a bad thing. Maybe there's I'm sure they've done it on purpose. They've got experience they've got a lot of experience in marketing. So they've worked with some big companies, which I'll go into in a second, but they've got a lot of experience in marketing, and specifically social media marketing as well. So they will know what's going to work based on, I'm sure they've got certain metrics that they've got with their company that will let them know what's going to work, and this is definitely going to work, that's for sure. But a likelihood between this project and another project is not necessarily a bad thing. When you're looking at investing in an NFT project, you want to have a comparable as to why that particular project is going to do well anyway. So if you're looking at 1.8 project, people might look back at Bored Apes and think, okay, this could be the next Bored Apes, or you might have a project with similar art to CryptoPunks, for example. You say, okay, could this be your next crypto? I mean, it's probably not going to get another CryptoPunks, don't get me wrong, but you get the point. With Invisible Friends, they did very, very well. I think at one point it was like a 10 ETH floor. At the moment it's about 5.49 ETH on OpenSea as a floor. So it's done extremely well. They minted that back in February. So as a comparable, as I said, it's not bad for it to have a likeness to Invisible Friends. It's not a bad thing necessarily, because I think those that missed out on Invisible Friends are gonna want to ape into Imaginary Ones, so they don't miss out, because FOMO is a bitch. Okay, now the team they're not really doxed. They're you can't really see who the team are per se, but Three of the founding members have been they're also co-founders of a company called, or co-founders or staff members, team members, whatever you want to call it, of a company called Offset, and a subsidiary of that brand is Offio. Now Offio, they specialize in creating like commercials and media marketing for companies, big companies as well, actually, on social media platforms and other platforms. They've created videos, and they've worked with companies like Ford, Pinterest, Binance, and even Twitter, to be fair. So they've done a lot of work in that marketing, social media marketing space. So they've got a lot of experience. They've actually worked with like over 500,000 businesses. So when you're looking at NFT projects, ideally you want them to be docs. You want to know who the founders are, but ultimately the reason you want to know who they are is because they've got a vested interest in making sure this project goes well. So they're not hidden, they're not hiding, they're not looking to just do a pump and dump and just get rid of the project. If you actually know who they are, but as we've got some sort of track record of the founders, hopefully it would show that they have to make sure that they're not going to ruin their reputation. They're invested in making sure that their reputation is upheld. Offio is a company. I think they've got over 20,000 followers on Instagram. So they need to make sure that they continue their legacy, as it were. I don't know if that's the right phrase, but they continue to keep going as they have been. Now the roadmap, there is a roadmap, but there's not really any promises made in the roadmap, I'll be honest. So there seems to be like an emphasis on community and building a community, which they're definitely doing. They've got really big followings on the different platforms, mainly Twitter and Instagram, but they've got really big followings on there now. So they're definitely building that community, which is good. But they're kind of touching on, in a vague way, different elements of what they could do in the months, years, weeks, whatever it is to come, with being involved in the metaverse and having a token. So they haven't really mentioned any plans. They're talking about potentially hiring people to build out their team. They're talking about building a team so they can investigate and head into the metaverse. Building a team so they can then look at bringing out a token to reward the holders, so the holders get some sort of reward for actually holding and not just dumping their bags. But they haven't really made any promises, so you couldn't really hold them to anything. So if they don't go into the metaverse, for example, you couldn't say, oh, you didn't keep your promise, because they haven't really promised they're going to do that. It's a little bit vague in that sense. So for the supply, they're going to be putting out 8,888 NFTs in this project. I think that's a fair amount. Most projects don't go above the 10,000 mark, and that standard has kind of been set out from CryptoPunks, and they set that out years ago. But most projects don't really go above that, regardless of the demand that they've created. Some projects will sell out, and they've only got a following on Twitter, for example, of 40,000. These guys have already got 10 times that, but they're still within the 10,000 NFT supply. And the reason I think that is good is because it still creates that scarcity. If you haven't got, if everyone that wants one of the NFTs is able to buy one on mint, they're not able to sell it to anyone. If they can't sell it to anyone, there's no liquidity in the market, and then there's no value. So you need that scarcity, you need that demand. You want the supply to be a lot shorter than the demand is. So it's good, and I think with the number of people that are interested, it's going to be very good. Now for the hype, I think, as I was saying with the Invisible Friends comparison, I think that has created a lot of hype for this project. No one wants to miss out on making a killing. To be fair, no one wants to lose out on making a killing. A lot of people made a killing on Invisible Friends. I think Imaginary Ones could go the same way. They've got a huge amount of followers on Twitter. They've got over 480,000 followers on Twitter. over 58,000 followers on Instagram. Their engagement across the platforms are really good as well. Comments, likes, shares, all really good. Multiple YouTubers have created videos on this particular project. As I said, one of the most hyped projects so far this year, and hype always leans into a project going well, at least in the short term. Whether it's the long term is a different question, but at least in the short term, I think it's definitely going to go well. So the mint price on this for the whitelisters, for those who are on the whitelist, is actually very reasonable, to be fair, considering the hype and the demand for the project. It's 0.2 ETH for those on the whitelist, if you're lucky enough to be on that whitelist. For those that are not on the whitelist, bit of a different story. So they're going with a Dutch auction, and they're going to go at 50%. The starting price is going to be 50% of the floor on OpenSea at the time of the auction, but they're capping it at 1.5 ETH. So, for example, if the floor on OpenSea is 4 ETH, obviously half that is 2 ETH. They won't be going at 2 ETH, they'll still cap it at 1.5 ETH. So 1.5 ETH will be the absolute maximum. For the floor to be 4 ETH pre-public auction would be pretty crazy, but it's not impossible, I guess, with the Invisible Friends comparison, and that's at over 5 ETH as a floor. So you know, people might be trying to dump their bags quickly. I think there'll be a real spike after the public auction, so I can't imagine the floor will be as high as that, but you never know. With the mint for the whitelist is the 27th of April. I think it's about 8 days or so away, and the public is 24 hours after that, so it's just on the 28th of April. Now, overall, I'm sure you can kind of get my vibe from the rest of the video, but it's definitely a must mint. I mean, as a project, it's looking like at least you want to be in there for the short term. I'm not sure if I want to stay in there for the long term, but as an absolute minimum, you've got to be in there for the short term on this one, because you will certainly make money on that mint price. You know, for the mint, even at 1.5, for example, if you're looking at a comparable of Invisible Friends, 1.5 comparison to a 5.49 floor on Invisible Friends, you know, you're talking about making 4 ETH very quickly, and that's certainly not to be scoffed at. So it's, you know, it's definitely a must mint. You've got to get in there at least for the short term, and depending on what the founders do with the project after that will really determine whether it would be a blue chip project in the future. But I think the floor will very quickly be very comparable to Invisible Friends. So it's definitely a must mint from me. But that's it from your boy. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. It is a massive help. So help out your boy while I'm helping you out. Let's get it.